Hey guys, Roman Reaper here. Just back with another video. So, yesterday was my top 10 best films of the year. And now today, I'm going to count down my top 5 worst of the year. I haven't seen enough stinkers to get a top 10 out of, but some of the stuff I've seen, I can at least get a top 5 done. So, without further ado, let's get into the dishonorable mentions to get us started. So, dishonorable mentions. These are the films that were certainly very disappointing, but they weren't quite bad enough to make my actual list. So, the dishonorable mentions are as follows: Emancipation, Spiderhead, and Amsterdam. Alright, now that we've got those out of the way, let's get to the good stuff, or sorry, the bad stuff. Here's number 5. In at number 5 is a film that has been described by people all year as the so bad it's good movie of the year, but personally, I didn't, feel that for most of it. I just thought it was pretty dull for the most part. I'm talking about Roland Emmerich's Moonfall. It, look, when I heard the initial reviews of this describing it as so like gloriously silly that it's like perfect, like I really wanted to come out of it and say, look, it's so silly and just it will melt your brain, but just go see it for that very reason. Like I perfectly wanted this to be like the perfect guilty pleasure of a film. Unfortunately, while it does have moments where it just reaches this level of like pure like radioactive silliness, it's all in the third act. Because the first two acts of this are about as dull and run of the mill disaster film as you can get. Like, every single cliche is just comes at you like it's a conveyor belt, and it does so with like the most unbelievably straight face. As I said, it does have moments where it reaches that level of just pure perfect silliness in Act 3, and like once it does, I had great laughs at those moments, and there are moments I just had my jaw on the floor in just sheer disbelief. Like, is this actually happening? But for the most part, it's a factory produced Roland Emmerich film. It's got good special effects. Like, it looks nice. You can absolutely see where the 140 million budget went, and there are good performances here. Like, Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson are clearly having fun, and John Bradley as the like comic relief character is a lot of fun with his puppy doggish energy. It's just a shame it's wasted on such a dull film. In at number 4 is a comedy offering, and normally I'm fairly easy on comedies because they don't need to do much to they just need to be like funny and entertaining, and that's all you need really. Obviously, you're not looking for some great piece of filmmaking, but this offering here just is like just a, an incredibly like dull and unfunny offering with certainly potentially half decent elements in a better film, but are absolutely wasted on this. I'm talking about Me Time, one of the Kevin Hart Netflix offerings of the year, and I was kind of curious about this because I was kind of looking forward to seeing the pairing of Kevin Hart and Marky Mark Wahlberg, and to their credit, they do have certainly funny scenes together, and I will admit there are gags that they kind of make me laugh, and so it's not a badly made film or anything. Well, some ropey CGI in places aside, and there's a sort of like you know good message about the pros and cons of being a stay-at-home family man, and also that of living the hedonistic party life. All of those ingredients could have made for a fairly fun, like heartwarming, raunchy comedy. Instead, there are about like a small handful of gags that produce laughs, and they're not even really laughs. They're like just sort of like the most mildest chuckles. Like it's such a shame, and the film also doesn't really know what the hell it wants to be. So on one hand, you've got all this wild sort of raunchy party stuff going on, but then it also wants to be like a more schmaltzy, heartwarming film about like a kids' talent show. Just it's having a bit of an identity crisis, and it's just not all that fun to watch. So if you have yourself some me time, use it on a better film than this. Probably the most infuriating of the list because, well, this had so much potential. It's got a really interesting concept, a bit of nostalgia with like beloved characters returning, and it would be like the end of an era. So there's primed to be an epic finale to round out a beloved franchise. How wrong were we all? I'm talking, of course, about Jurassic World Dominion. What a disappointment this ended up being. Like they had so many good ingredients going in. The dinosaurs roaming the world. Like there's so many possibilities you could do with that, and and bringing back the original trio of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, and seeing them interacting with the newer characters. Like this should have been like so much fun, but instead what it is a overlong slog of a film. Like God, this was so boring. Like it is the most boring film about dinosaurs like ever committed. That is really going some. Like yes, fair play to them. They wanted to do something different, and that's probably what the dinosaur roaming the earth should have been. But instead, this film's idea of going different is threads no one cares about and ultimately lead to nothing. So like we've got this like locust plague tied to a shady pharmaceutical company, which just happens to be run by Dodgson. There's also some weird thing about cloning, and there's also another thing about this whole espionage kidnapping plot thing, and like dinosaur poaching and black market. None of it leads to like anything satisfying at all. Like, and it's so frustrating because the nostalgia stuff and the dinosaur stuff should be good, right? Wrong. There's barely any dinosaurs, and when the dinosaur stuff is happening, it sucks because the dinosaurs have essentially become like the equivalent of domesticated dogs, and they just sort of stare at characters and sort of stalk them for a bit, and then do nothing. There's one good dinosaur scene, and that's Chris Pratt being chased by raptors in Malta. Not even the nostalgia stuff's good either. Like when you think about old interacting with new, the best you think of is probably, I don't know, Spider-Man No Way Home, where we see the three Spider-Men interacting and they have real chemistry, and and they actually build on each other's experiences as characters. None of that happens here. When the old trio and the new characters meet, it's just like, hey, you're that person. You did that thing that was really great, and then like one of the like older bunch would be like, oh hey, I've heard about you. You are this person, and you did that other thing that's really great. Like like they did it in like the laziest way they could, and it's a testament to how boring this film is that even Chris Pratt sounded like he didn't want to be there. Like one of the most energetic leading men in Hollywood at the moment, and you've managed to make him bored to the point where he's speed running through his dialogue for the paycheck. Please, Universal, no more. Coming in at number two is a cash grab that is somehow even more lazy and cynical. I'm talking about Disney's live action remake of Pinocchio. Where Guillermo del Toro's version is one of the best of the year, this is one of the worst. Like, dear lord, this is literally everything wrong with Disney's brand of live action remakes. Like, it is an incredibly soulless and uninteresting rehash of plot beats of the original animated film, like literally just trying to be a copy of that film. And even when it attempts new stuff, it contributes literally nothing to the overall plot. Like you may as well like remove it, and would probably like shave off precious minutes, but the narrative will pretty much play out largely the same. And it also doesn't help that the acting is not great either. Like every line is like either plot specific information or just delivered in an incredibly like over the top, stilted, and infantilized manner. It's probably the best way I can describe it. It's baffling, like how we've got like fully grown adults like talking and delivering lines like they're children. And don't even get me started on Pinocchio. Jesus Christ, this version of Pinocchio absolutely grated on me. Like, and that's and and obviously this is a child actor who's relatively inexperienced, but God, Pinocchio's voice just did my head in. It like, and the line deliveries just again infantilized and stilted. There is one good performance here, and that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket. He's doing a pretty decent impression, and it's slightly undermined by the fact that his head looks like a Brussels sprout, but whatever. At least he's like clearly having fun. I haven't even talked about Tom Hanks and his god awful Italian accent. Like, it's not even as funny bad as his like really like over the top pantomime Dutch accent in Elvis. Like, at least that made me laugh with him trying to badly swear in Dutch. This has nothing. Oh yeah, and then there's the fact that it's just an incredibly cheaply made looking film as well. Like there are so many scenes, particularly on Pleasure Island, where it looks so obvious that it's just been shot on like green screens and sound stages, and the way it's lit as well is so incredibly like it's like incredibly flat, like that usual Disney bland thing. Like, you know, most scenes are like flat grays, and dark scenes are just like are like darkened to the point of being near incomprehensible. And outdoor scenes in daylight have this really like artificial, overexposed look to them. And And don't even get me started on the CGI. Jesus, the CGI in this film, like some of it looks fine. Like Pinocchio's CGI looks fine. The animals look atrocious, but the point is, all of it's you can so obviously tell that it's digital and like you're not actually witnessing something tangible in front of you. I'm just gonna end this off by saying, if you watch a version of Pinocchio from 2022, make it the Del Toro one, please, because that film is so good and is deserving of your time. Pass on this one so we don't get any more of these atrocious remakes going forward. Here we are, number one, the worst film of the year, the turkey of 2022. And it's a film so bad that it has been the stuff of memes for months ever since its release. The Batman. No, it's obviously Morbius. Morbius. The one of the movies of all time, the most movie ever made, and it's also like the nadir of Sony's universe of Marvel characters. Is that what it's called? I don't think anyone knows or cares, but that's besides the point. This is very much not so much the product of a filmmaker, having their vision neutered by studio interference. This is very much the product of a lack of vision. Jesus Christ, this film is incoherent. Like the first 20 minutes alone, like jump all over the place. Like the first scene of the film is literally him getting the bats, and then it cuts to his childhood in Greece and like this hospital, and then it cuts to him after the mission, and then it's him meeting Matt Smith, and then him getting his powers, and it's also a testament to how incoherent this film is that Matt Smith used the vampire juice off screen, and I didn't even realize it had happened off screen. Like, just 10 out of 10 storytelling all around. And that extends to the action scenes as well. They're an absolute mess of bats flying around and coloured lines of characters flying. It's such a mess, and the CGI is atrocious, and not even some of the acting can save it because, Matt Smith is having the time of his life, bless his heart. He is trying so much and he's having so much fun going villain mode. None more so than than the iconic, infamous scene of him dancing in his bedroom shirtless. It's this is cinema. The problem is he's put on screen next to Jared Leto, who is doing the Jared Leto thing where when he's not ridiculously overacting like in House of Gucci, he's just giving the bare minimum. His crutches stunt did not pay off. Oh yeah, and and then of course there's this film's hilarious attempt at getting a PG-13 rating, and this is like the most egregious of the SUMC, because Let There Be Carnage was obviously tamer than the first Venom, but this is so tame. Morbius does not even like eat any blood on screen, and the blood he does eat is blue. Like, Sony, you've outdone yourselves. You really have. Oh yeah, and that's not even talking about the post-credit scenes, which not a single thing in either of them makes a lick of sense. Like, in fact, they make even less sense now, because apparently after a certain point they just straight up cut out all mentions of Spider-Man, so... Well done, Sony, I hope you're proud of yourselves. Yes, it's just a huge, boring, generic mess of a film, which has a really cool idea, like a Jekyll and Hyde premise, does nothing with it, and just makes it the most generic, like, origin story imaginable, and in fact, just straight up turns this potentially cool villain into yet another glorified hero. I will say, and this is a testament to this film. Obviously, there's, you know, to amplify how derivative it is. There's one scene that literally, note for note, shot for shot, feels like something ripped right out of Batman Begins. And also a testament to this film's quality is it's so good it broke records. It bombed twice because Sony, being the geniuses they are, thought, you know, the memes meant there was genuine interest in their crappy product. It blew up in their faces. And yeah, that's really about what I've got to say for this film. A complete turkey all around. And yeah, that's it for my worst films of the year. Let me know down in the comments, what are your worst films of the year, and what potential stinkers do you think there will be next year? Don't forget the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget the subscribe button if you're new, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.